Alright, the 32 ACP. We're going to talk about the cartridge, and I went through my collection, and these four examples are the only guns I possess now in 32 ACP. And even though it's not so much of a military surplus, more law enforcement, I believe all four of these pistols were used by law enforcement, not so much the military. But then again, we're going to talk about the cartridge, and then I'll go through and individually do a video on each of these specific handguns. But let's start with the cartridge. The 32 ACP has been around for a while. It was developed in 1899 by John Browning. And Browning also came up with some pistols to use it in. And the first one he made was the 1900 FN model 1900, which was the first handgun he designed in that caliber. It became extremely popular at the time, and handguns weren't that powerful in the older days, okay? It's a straight wall case, semi-rimmed, which means there's a groove for the extractor in the base of the case, but the diameter of the rim is larger than the diameter of the case itself. So these guns do headspace off the rim. And another thing, a lot of military revolvers from that time period, be it the Russian Nagant revolver, the French had a 32 caliber revolver, the Lebel, and I think Sweden and that, they all had 32 caliber revolvers, was the military standard. So the automatic pistols were considered a tad bit better, and the whole idea behind it is it's a simple blowback operated handgun, which means it doesn't have a locking or any kind of lockup in there. It's just, like on all of these is a spring. These here, like the PP and these Czech pistols, basically the barrel's mounted to the frame, there's a spring around it, the slide comes off, and you just fire it, and there's no lockup whatsoever. There are pistols made that do have a lockup, not all of them, but a vast majority of the 32 autos are just simple blowback guns. And what that does, it makes the manufacture of the weapon less expensive, less complicated, more simple. And these older guns with a metal frame, actually, they're comfortable to shoot and they're fairly accurate. Now, a lot of people say that the knockdown power and that isn't there, and that's kind of true. But the 32 automatic does have a little bit more power than the 32 Smith & Wesson long. Now at the time, at the turn of the century, from 1900, I'd say until about post-World War I, when the 38 took over, this was the standard for U.S. law enforcement, this little Smith here, 32 long. This one has, I think, a 4-inch barrel or maybe a 6, I'm not quite sure. But that was what most police departments carried as the standard revolver. They're small, they're lightweight, okay, and reliable. But a revolver, there's more machining and it's more of a complex mechanism than an automatic pistol. I don't have any very early versions of autos. These here are mostly post-World War II pistols, but if you like collecting old handguns, there are so many commercial variations of little semi-auto handguns in the 32 ACP that it can be interesting. There's a lot of interesting examples and varieties out there of guns that are getting up close to 100 years old. And also, this cartridge, like the 25 Auto and that, were all made in small, compact little, they call them vest pocket guns, or real deep concealed. And even today, Beretta makes the Bobcat, which is probably the nicest compact 32 you can get, other than, I think it's Corbond or something. Makes a stainless steel little 32 Auto. But these were used, like these here, were used by police departments in Europe until the 1980s, like this CZ70 here, 80s and 90s. That's what a lot of law enforcement agencies were issued, were these little 32 Autos. Okay, and this Beretta 81BB was, this came out of the Italian police force or whatever. This contract was made for prison use. These were what the prison guards had. Nice, more modernized version of it. But they're interesting guns. They're fun to shoot. Recoil on them is not terrible, especially with these metal-made guns. You can get, there's been several other, I know there's been several little pocket pistols made here recently. Caltech was one, and a few others that have polymer frames. But a lot of them have been kind of eclipsed by the 380, a little bit more popular cartridge than the 32. But still, they're a nice gun. That, you know, for concealed carry, any one of these would do well. As for the stopping power, people argue, you know, but hey, these things were around for 100 years, just about. Were standard issue and used and popular for about 100 years. So you can't really say that the cartridge was ineffective if it was used for so many years. And it's like the old adage, you know, people start, when they start arguing about stopping power and all this other stuff, yeah, there's a lot better options out there. But the thing is, I think one guy was a cop, told me that he's seen more people wounded by a 32 than killed by a 32 in his career in law enforcement. But we'll go with one of the most famous shootings in modern times was Andy Warhol. And there's a movie out there, I Shot Andy Warhol. And when he was at the height of his career with modern art or whatever he was doing, there was an individual he was associated with, this woman, that walked into his office one day and I believe shot him with a 32 caliber revolver of some sort. I'm not quite sure what it was, but shot him and one of the people in his staff, and he was hit 3 times. 2 of the gunshot wounds, like in the arm or in the leg or something, were kind of minor. But once the bullet hit into his, basically his abdominal cavity, somehow one of the shots went in there, and the bullet, and I don't know if it was a full metal jacket or a lead bullet, but the bullet went through the soft tissue in a way where the bullet glanced off of several of his vital organs. And that did the most damage. And it just about killed him. He was in surgery for like 7 or 8 hours. It hit his liver, it hit a kidney, something else like that. But it goes to show you, these things can do damage. It all depends on shot placement, distance, everything else. And that's the thing about it. Would I carry a 32? Well, sometimes I have. Some of these guns are quite convenient to carry, and like the one thing about any one of these pistols right here, even though the sights are very basic and simple on all of them, somewhat fixed sights, small, at close range, that's another thing. These guns were not designed to be shot at a distance. You're talking, say, a distance of 10 to 12 feet, you know, You point the thing, pull the trigger, you can control it. You will hit whatever you know, at that distance, an individual or an attacker or something. Granted, it might not have the knockdown power. Somebody that's souped up on meth or something, you know, might not have that stopping power. But the thing is, it can work, okay? And another thing, everyone wants these hollow points and expanding bullets. This particular caliber and like the 25 auto are best to be used with a full metal jacket bullet. The reason is they're not that powerful, and you need the full metal jacket bullet to penetrate deep enough to hit a vital organ or to become lethal, okay? And it can be. And again, it's shot placement. Most people you see just shoot rapidly. It's, you know, that's not how these work. You only have like 7 shots in this CZ. So if you ever use this gun, and I mean these sights are minuscule, but I can shoot these and hit, like I said, at 10, 12 feet, I can easily keep a nice group about 2 inches with one of these guns. It's easy to control. The recoil is not tough. They're reliable. They're dependable, these designs. You know, they're in good working order. They're a decent gun. And the idea is the bullet has to penetrate deep enough into the person to incapacitate them. So putting one of those hollow point or high performance bullets, you know, if that's what you're into, but the full metal jacket will still do the job. The key is, you know, being able to hit what you're shooting at. So that's my spiel on the 32 auto. And we'll take a look at it. And what we have here, we have the CZ70. I believe this is the CZ52. I have a Zastava Model 70, which was another police issue gun in the 32, and the Beretta BB, or 81 BB, which this is a standard Beretta design in the 32 with a 12 round magazine. So these have somewhat of a high capacity mag. These here, I believe these are 7 or 8 shots, and this one might only be 6 or 7 in the little small gun. But I'll do a little video covering each and every single one of these in my collection. But like I said, the 32s, they're a nice gun. They're fun to shoot. You know, in a pinch, I know there's better stuff out there, but if you ended up inheriting one or getting one on a deal, they're not that bad for self-defense, concealed carry, or actually like this here, a gun around the house, you know, for home defense. Something where if somebody's breaking in to your home, a pistol like this, okay, would be great, other than like a Smith & Wesson 29 firing a 44 Magnum in the middle of the night, especially if you live like in an apartment or in the city. You know, they have their purpose, and they're pretty decent firearms. All right, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned.